I'd like to introduce health author and chiropractor Dr Warren Sipser. Dr Sipser practices from his own clinic in Elwood. He's also Secretary of the Chiropractors Association of Australia. Dr Warren Sipser's book is titled 7 Things the Doctor Forgot to Tell You, and I'm very excited to have him here today to talk about spinal health and its effects on our well-being. Welcome to Simply Wellbeing, Warren.
Thank you for having me along.
We're very excited to have you. So tell me, as a wellness practitioner and chiropractor, what is your wellness philosophy?
There are 3 simple philosophies, or one simple philosophy divided up into 3. One is that the body self-heals and regulates. So you cut yourself and it does it on its own. We don't need to know the millions of reactions that occur. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that self-healing and regulating occurs through the nerve system, which is in turn protected by the spine. So if we keep those things in order, we're then giving our body the maximum opportunity to heal and regulate itself at its optimum.
Yeah, so looking after your spine and spinal health is quite important.
Well, the nerve system is what controls the function of every cell, organ and tissue in the body, and then in turn is protected by the spine. So if the spine interferes with the nerve system, then all of a sudden we're placing a stress on the body where it can't heal and regulate itself. So even if we're eating good food, it would be like putting good petrol in a bad motor car. It's not going to make it go any better. So we need a synchronicity between the two things. We need to have our spine and our nerve system working well, and we need to look after all the other aspects of our health. So eating well and moving our body and exercising, those are incredibly important too.
So it's a holistic approach, like with anything. But, you know, we were all sitting here thinking, we make sure we're eating or we're exercising? And there's a whole other element that most people aren't aware of, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's something that we tend not to place a lot of focus on generally in our psyche or in socialized communities, only because so much of us is about functioning and so little of us is about feeling. So if you look at the lifestyle illnesses that affect human beings, things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, they don't have early warning signs, and that's because the body's not designed to feel, it's designed to function. So the whole message is, let's be proactive, let's make sure that our body's working well, let's eat good food, let's exercise, not because we're fat, unhealthy and not able to. Let's do it before we get to all of those things.
That's right. Prevention is really the best cure, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's no fun getting sick and then having to work it out.
No, because then all you're ever doing is trying to get back to where you were before you got sick. So we're talking about being preventative and being well, and that's the concept, and that's what chiropractic really embraces.
So does that mean we should be seeing a chiropractor even though we don't think we've got any aches and pains?
Well, the nerve system is really divided up into 3 major divisions. There's the part that allows us to feel, there's the part that allows us to move, so our muscular division, and then there's the part that goes to our organs. And the majority of nerves are focused on organ function, so we can sit and digest and breathe and think and see and do all these amazing things without having to know how to do that. We then have a small part which we can actively control, so we can move our bodies, and then only a tiny bit is allowing us to feel, which is why things like diabetes, heart disease and cancers are still so prolific. And so what we really want to do is we want to focus on being well so that we don't have to get our bodies to tell us that something's wrong. So look, there are different stages of chiropractic care. Lots of people will go to a chiropractor to sort out a presenting problem, an ache or a pain or a something along those lines. But then really the whole philosophy of being well is having chiropractic care proactively, and the frequency will depend on that person and all the other factors in their life that they're doing. So if they're eating well and they're exercising, they're giving their bodies a good chance of being healthy anyway, so therefore they would need less care.
So what you're saying is that if I've got a pain in my neck, that's having a much greater effect on my health than just the inconvenience of having the pain in my neck.
Well, the body's so intelligent that pain is telling you something. It's interesting, Briony, because most times when people come to my practice, they'll say, I've got this ache or this pain, and generally it's not something that started the day before. It might have been niggling for months or years before they decided to come in. They're not coming in because of the pain. They're coming in because the pain is not allowing them to do something in their life. Mm-hmm. And so their body's intelligent and it's saying, well, I can't deal with this problem anymore, so I'm going to give you pain, which is going to force you to then change your lifestyle and get somebody to help you out with it, and in this case would be the chiropractor.
So what you're saying is it's stopping you, say, doing something because, look, my neck hurts and I can't turn it and that's why I'm there. But from what you were saying before, does that also mean it could be that my neck pain could affect my digestion with the nerves?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I mean, if we look at the way the human body is designed and the way it grows, embryonically, the tissue of the upper thorax, for the same tissue that becomes the heart began as a tissue that then becomes the muscles of the arm and the elbow and the forearm. So when someone's having a heart attack, often they'll have arm or wrist or elbow pain. They won't have actual heart pain, but once upon a time they were the same tissue, which then differentiated. So a pain is not a pain problem. A pain is most often a health problem, but pain is the thing that we sense it through.
Wow. And most of us are just taking painkillers and anti-inflammatories and things like that, where could be an underlying real issue.
Exactly right. And so I was a paramedic before I was a chiropractor. There is a time and place for things like medication, but the body's so intelligent that we'd rather want to address it with a healthy natural option before we might have to use something like medication to quell the symptoms, because then we're saying, well, the body's unintelligent and this sign or symptom that we're having is not meaningful. We want to understand why we have it. What do we need to change in our life so that it's not there anymore? And the only way it's not going to be there anymore is if we get healthier.
So is also postural health really important, like the way we sit every day? Because, I mean, I know I slouch a fair bit and I'm sitting up a little straighter because you're here, but is this something that we all need to be mindful of? Or is it just mainly that, the accidents, snowboarding, or some of the big collisions that we can all have?
The thing being bandied around now is that sitting is the new smoking. And that rings very true. We are bipeds, so we walk on two legs compared to most other animals, and we were not actually designed to sit. It's actually a very unhealthy position for us, and the more we move, the more mechanical change of blood flow there is, the more we actually move ourselves, the more we oxygenate our body, and we sit so much, and this generation is so much worse than the one before. It's incredibly unhealthy for us, and if you're adopting an unnatural position like sitting, then eventually what happens is you land up slouching. It's not something that you consciously do, but it's an eventuality of doing something that we're not actually designed to do. So slouching is very common. It doesn't mean it's okay, but the more we move, the better. And people are becoming more aware of it. You have more standing workplaces and things like that, but sitting is the new smoking. Wow.
So should we be standing more when doing our work, or sitting on those medicine balls or something like that?
Generally, we should be moving more. Overall, we should be exercising more. We should be sitting less generally. We should encourage our children to play less with devices. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old, and I know that it's part of our society now. But, when I grew up, we were running out in the garden. We didn't have an opportunity to sit down at computers and watch television. We need to encourage that more movement generally.
So on a daily basis, is there any tips you can give people to help improve their postural health at home?
Absolutely. So if you were sitting in the motor car, you'd want to turn the rear vision mirror to the point that you would actually have to sit up to look at it. So you would tilt it up slightly so that you would have to sit up and stick your neck up so that your posture improved. When you were sitting at your workstation, you want to make sure that the bottom of your computer screen was at the same level. The bottom of the screen would be at your eye level. So you would have to sit up and look up at it. And then really the general piece of advice from a sitting standpoint is sit less and move more. And that might mean that you put an alarm on your computer that every 15 minutes you stand up and you have a little stretch or you have a little walk around.
Oh, that's really good advice. I know I need to follow some of that. So sitting in your bed with a computer, laptop on your lap is probably not a good idea.
It's like one of my worst nightmares.
I know I've heard you talk a lot about subluxation. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. So that basically is a term that chiropractors use, and chiropractors and it's used in medicine too, but there's slightly different definitions. A subluxation refers to a misalignment of a few vertebrae, and what that will do is that will change how effectively the nerve can then communicate its signals toward organs and muscles. So it basically means the spine has moved out of its normal position, is putting pressure on the nerve system, and that's changing the communication between the brain and the end organ, which will be muscle and organ.
So essentially, messages from the brain aren't really effectively getting to where they need to go to.
Correct, and the messages coming from the environment are not getting back to the brain as well as they could or should. So we're sitting here now, and we don't need to change because our brain is receiving signals that it's a safe environment, but we want to make sure that communication between the brain and the outside world is always happening at the best that it could be.
That's really interesting. Well, I've learned a lot today. I know I need to be moving a lot more. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me today. If anyone's interested in finding out where your clinic is or about your book, where can they find more information on you?
7 Things, as in the number 7, 7things.com.au is the website, and my personal one is www.chiro, the number 4, life, life.com.
Thank you so much, Warren.
Thank you, Briony.